Recording is in session.
And we have some newer people here also, so you guys can introduce yourselves and stuff. Everybody knows Corey, but not everybody on this line.
That's great, because I had Mike take out the slide about who was Third Wave. I said all of them know who we are.
No.
It's actually, oh yeah, no, it is hidden. It's hidden. It's not gone.
Well, they know who Third Wave is, but I don't know if they know you guys.
All right, cool.
And about Scott and Jason, so.
So I'll just quickly introduce the team. This is Mike Neuendorf, Consulting Director at Third Wave. Been here since 2004, working with APP ever since. Mike Nardini is our Channel Manager. So I think most of you guys should know Mike, and if you don't, you should know Mike. So he's your direct contact for doing most of the stuff, and Corey's our CEO since forever. So most of you know Corey.
Yeah, I'm the dinosaur.
Since forever. How do you like that, Corey?
That's a compliment.
That makes me sound like the vampire.
A blessing and curse, all in one.
And I just want to point out that Third Wave won the award for 100% maintenance renewal for 2016. So that is, I think, unheard of.
Wow.
So
fabulous.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, we were pretty excited. We were pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
We actually did a number of years ago win a Pinnacle Award as an SSP for innovation, pretty much around APP, which back in the day was called Crystal Wave.
I remember that.
Yeah. So
nice.
It was fun. So Mike is going to go through a few PowerPoints, just kind of outline the functionality that we've got in APP, and then give you a demonstration of it. You're going to kind of listen to the functionality and going, well, yeah, we might have that in other tools. I don't know if any of you remember, but we started out with this product as Crystal Wave, which was the first Crystal Reports integration into Business One back in 2004. And then quickly added document delivery to our functional set, being able to email and advanced print capabilities and so on. We, at one point, did a lot of B1 up, and then got to the point, though, where it really made sense for us to add all of that customization capability into our product and change the name of it to Advanced Productivity Pack. I think one of the biggest differences you're going to see, Mike, what are you doing?
I was trying to get all of those to paint.
Okay, one of the biggest differences you're going to see with our application is some cases not necessarily, yeah, can we add a button to a screen? Yeah, we can. It's how we do it. I mean, one of our philosophies the whole time during the development of Crystal Wave and then adding the customization capability into Business One is that this is functionality that should be deliverable by a junior consultant or something that a customer should be able to learn how to do easily if they want to. And actually, back in the day, I was the guinea pig on this. So if Corey could do it, anybody could do it.
Yeah, the customers say it's very user-friendly.
Yeah, it is really user-friendly, and from a consultant, I mean, all of our consultants can do it. Junior consultants can do it. They learn it very quickly. The other side of it that makes it really nice and easy is that if we need to do something specific for a customer demo, it's very quick to go in and set something up and be able to show them exactly what it is that they want to see. Steve Araldi, as you guys know, used to work for us, and he's done some comparisons between, what we could do with APP and what could be done with, say, the Country Pack from CoreSuite or B1 Up. And he's like, I can do something in APP in like 15 or 20 minutes. It takes me 3 hours to do in the other ones. So,
and question, Corey, if somebody bought this a couple years ago and let's say maybe they haven't upgraded B1 yet, is there new functionality in what they've had in the last couple years in this, or would it be advantageous to get them to upgrade if they haven't already?
There's definitely new functionality. I mean, some of the functionality that's probably one of our most underutilized is the charts and the dashboards. Which Mike is going to show you, and then the APP queries functionality. We've actually had charts and dashboards for probably 4 years or so at this point, but they're not that widely utilized. And we've got standard ones we deliver. The key here, though, is if you've got somebody that can write a SQL query or they already have a B1 query, you can add a chart and dashboard on top of that very quickly.
Yeah, if I can interject, there's a couple other what's new items that are worth highlighting. The first one is, in the past, probably for the first 7 or 8 years of APP, maybe even more, document delivery, the what we call advanced delivery, that's kind of, in our language, it's really called like blast emailing, right? So it could be send all the sales orders, copy of the order acknowledgments for all the new sales orders that came in, send the email with the attached PDF of the order acknowledgement report to the various customers. That's been there forever. Where that's evolved now, document delivery, is it has the ability now, so instead of it just going off of the SAP printing screen, basically you could say, all right, now go run a print batch and say, you know, print the last 30 orders, but not print them, but email them. Now you can write a query that can determine who the recipients are. So the query could basically be anything. Now, where that struggled in the past is that that query, if you wanted that to actually make it work, it had to be based off of a Business One screen or a Business One object. Now it does not. So I don't know if you have familiarity with Crystal Report Server from Business Objects, but you can write a query against any table, and any one of the fields in the query can be used for parameters in the Crystal reports, parameters in the email delivery options, tags in the email messaging. So, for example, if you had a query and it had salesperson number, salesperson name, salesperson email, and then maybe a couple other fields, you can actually run like a commission report. I'll show you a demo of that against that, and basically it'll run the commission report. If you got 50 records in your query, it'll run the commission report 50 times, each time passing in a different parameter. So like salesperson 1, salesperson 2, salesperson 3, and send them their copy of it and automatically distribute that. So
Nice.
we had that. We had customers that needed to do that years ago, and in order to do that, we had to sell them Crystal Report Server. There weren't really any good Business One related tools to do that. So APP now has that, and then on top of that, there's a tool called Scheduler that's now included with APP that can do that on a scheduled basis. So you install Scheduler somewhere on one of your servers, and if you have an advanced delivery definition set up, you can call that into Scheduler and say, when do you want to send it? How often do you want to send it? Do I want to send it via SMTP, and what are my SMTP credentials? So if you want to start blasting people every Monday afternoon with a copy of their aging or a copy of their statements and their open invoice listing, it has the capability of doing that. So where that's really nice is we've got people doing UDO, UDT stuff that's pretty crucial to their business now, and we could do the delivery, the advanced delivery off of those UDOs, UDTs, because they don't have to be Business One objects anymore. That could just be another custom SQL table somewhere. So that's a pretty big game changer.
The other side of that too that becomes interesting is, you know, you can obviously do things like, you know, I want to send out a reminder to everybody that's got a sales quote that's going to expire in the next week. Off of that advanced delivery capability, we've also set up a dunning process, so it'll automatically pull anybody that's 60 days overdue and send out the email with the message in it, and then 90 days overdue with a stricter message, etc. But we've also had customers do things like, hey, we just put together a new promotion sheet. We just want to email out our new weekly promotion list as a PDF to our customers. So you've got that capability as well.
Like a totally custom PDF developed in Publisher, you design what you want to do it. It could do a mail blast to those folks.
Nice.
All right. So let's
Cool.
get on with it. Oh, and the journal voucher import is relatively new. You may not have seen that. There's an Excel spreadsheet template that looks just like you would imagine a journal entry screen. So up in the top, there's some things like the document date, some notes fields that you would see on the regular journal entry screen. And then there's a template of how you do your debits and credits on the line items. And you just save the Excel file in, and there's a tool where you could say, go find that Excel file, and that could be as big as you want it to be. It could be 5,000 records long, and it'll suck it into a journal voucher and import it in, so that if people want to, you know, for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been using it to load people's opening GL balances. So it's pretty slick that way.
So it helps in the implementation data conversion a lot because we can put that task into the user's hands. And then things like for payroll journals and other things that they might have that they want to do journal entries into without having to manually key everything in.
Exactly. All right, so let's.
What about the and the security? How far does the security audit report go?
It is it's like a pivot table basically that opens when you run it, and you can put like all the functions of SAP, right? So really, it's all your user authorization. It shows that down the rows, and then it shows the users across the columns that you want to see, and you can then say, show me everybody who has access to this screen. Show me and it shows you what their access are to each screen: full, read-only, none, etc.
And will it show changes to so if could I say show me any changes to any user permissions that have been changed over the last month?
No.
Okay, so this is the job tracker.
Good question though. All right. Okay. So.
Oh yeah, the one other thing that we didn't talk about there either was we have taking off of our email capability. If you just want to send an email to somebody, like a contact on a business partner, that's just kind of an ad hoc email, you can do that through our email tool that's included with this as well, and it'll create an activity record.
We'll see that in a minute, yeah. All right, so let's just kind of get on with it. There's only about 5 or 6 slides or something like that. I'll just blast through really quickly, and then we'll look at some live product. So the reason, there's a little bit of building blocks here. They do all the different functions that are on that prior slide. They kind of all intermingle. One of the building blocks here is queries. So there's a handful of things that you could do with queries. So first of all, if you don't like the SAP query tools, right, the Query Manager or Query Wizard, there's its own Query Wizard query tool built in. It looks a little bit more like an Access query tool. Kind of people find it to be a little bit nicer to use. But with APP, when you have a query, you can make it not just a B1 query, you can make it what's called an APP query. And in that, when you launch the query, you would launch it off of the main menu. You place it wherever you want, in any folder or any location you want inside the SAP main menu. When you load it, it's going to load its own screen, right? And it depends. There's an option of when you set them up, you could say just run the B1 query, or if you run the APP query, it's its own screen. And it has a little different look and feel. It does grouping, and it can do grouping, sorting, display. So for example, if you said, I want to list customers and then group them based on the customer group, or based on, say, a last order date or something like that, like have they ordered in the last month, or have they ordered in the last 3 months, or in the last year only, you could sort it that and then subtotal based on those. So the difference between that and the only other tools that have really existed for doing that ad hoc type stuff is Crystal. But these gives you the sorting and the more real-time analysis capabilities of it. And you get link arrows, okay? So the different aggregates that you could do within there are subtotals, average, min, max, and so on and so forth, your normal aggregates. You can leave it open on the side, so you can always keep that open. So if you said, hey, look, I want to leave a list of today's sales orders open as a query, you can actually have it just refresh and say refresh every minute or every 5 minutes or whatever interval you'd like. And as long as you write the query to say what you want, it'll just sit there and stay open for you. Go back into B1 and just tap over to it whenever you want. It's its own separate Windows window. So we have some examples of those where we kind of have like dashboards and queries that we kind of leave open all the time here internally. And then there's visualizations, quote unquote, right? They're basically charts type items. So the gauges, you guys know this stuff. Those are built in, those are baked in. And once you build queries, you could do a bunch of stuff with the queries. One is, like I said, they're the basis for advanced delivery. They also become the basis for the dashboarding. So we'll see that in a moment too. So a dashboard is basically a combination of charts, data grids, and then gauges as well. So for example, if you want to put a little bar chart over here, and you guys know it, and a grid over here, that's basically, you write, if you have 5 things you want to show in a dashboard, you write 5 queries. You say if you want the query to be a chart or just a data grid, and then you just yank it into a dashboard and say where you want to put it, say what you want its behavior to be, and you're off to the races. Forms, reports, and advanced delivery. So a couple key things here. I'm not going to read every single bullet because I'll give you guys this, I'll give you the recording of it. But the key item that we find to be very awesome with implementation of APP is that all of the stuff that we do that kind of links to screens, so that would be like reports, forms, reporting groups, advanced delivery, emailing, etc. It can be done not only on any SAP existing screen. They could be linked up to and deployed to any SDK screen, UDOs, UDTs, or even custom queries. And any field on those screens can be captured and fed into the report either as a piece of data or a parameter. So for example, if you're on the production order screen and you want to be able to say, give me a report of all the other production orders for this customer or for this item, you could do that. You could take the item code, scrape that field, get it, feed it into a report or a query as a parameter, and then produce it, right? And it could even be if you've built a UDO. We have a customer that wanted functionality so that, yes, they have 50 open production orders in SAP, and they wanted a screen to be able to say, well, I want to be able to set my production sequence. So, for example, I've got these production orders, and I haven't scheduled the jobs yet necessarily. They wanted to be able to manually set the sequence and say, I want a screen where I could say, do this production order first, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And they had some criteria that they wanted to be able to do to be able to say, hey, first look up and show me all the production orders for items that use this machine. And they would schedule those. And then they would say, all right, now let's do this machine. And they would schedule those. And it was a UDO, basically. It was, on the header, it was the day, the date, and then the lines were the jobs, the production orders of SAP that they wanted to schedule. And then you could attach, so that's just standard SAP, but then we could attach a report to it, an APP report that when you say, okay, now print it, it then printed out all the production orders in the sequence that they set on that screen. And all we had to do is get the production order number from one of the fields on the rows, get the actual day ID, feed those variables into the reports as parameters, and off to the races again. We have now, this ability to do, job scheduling. We even did some stuff with APP macro editor on that screen to autofill, because on busy days when they wanted to be able to say, hey, put in this criteria, and it would say, put in a couple pieces of criteria on the top, and then you add a button and it says, all right, get all the stuff that meets this criteria, and it would do what's called a line event down the lines, fill in all the rows and start them off, and then there's the report at the end of it. So basically, we built a whole production scheduling module that wasn't necessarily MRP. It was more, when do we want to plan the jobs and in what sequence, and we were able to deliver that kind of functionality pretty easily. So again, there's a couple other things. A couple other key points here is there are a couple checkboxes when you're setting up any particular definition of a report to say whether or not you want to auto-create activity on the business partner activities on printer delivery. So for example, if you want to start tracking, it'll generate automatic BP activity when you send a copy of an invoice to a customer, or when you send a copy of a statement to a customer. So that you could say, I want to see how often we've sent statements to the people. Internally here, huge benefit to doing that. We constantly look at that to say, when we're looking at collections, when's the last time I sent them a statement? But it's a really cool checkbox, because you check it, and literally it records the activity. On top of that, there are checkboxes to say, I want to demand a delivery receipt and a red receipt on any one of the deliveries as well. So like I said, I'm not going to read every other one of them. The other key item is that the message builder. So if you want to build the email messaging, it actually uses Microsoft Word. So it's pretty instant to learn how to use that. And finally, again, scheduler is now included in it. All right, customizer.
Wait a second, Mike. You forgot one of my favorite features. So all of this can be set up, and you can set up the standard message. But one of the functions that we added in here was the ability to edit the email and add additional attachments before you actually send it off for delivery.
Right.
So you can have the standard sales order confirmation email, but based on the conversation with the customer, you want to modify the email just slightly, thank them more or whatever, and then add another attachment to it. So you can open it up, make changes to it, and then hit the send button.
And the
And it's
benefit
both
there is
their
that when it creates the activity, it actually reflects the changes you made before you hit send. Whereas if you sent it to Outlook and then edited it, it's not attached. The activity is going to be what it was when you hit the button to create the activity.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Okay. Customizer. This is the like what you guys. Again, you may have seen it, may not. It's your standard kind of GUI editing tool, but it is easy. It's look, like Corey said, we still have a handful of us that are still very skilled B1 Up users. Once you learn APP and get used to it, it is easier to use, without a doubt, unequivocally. The customizer. There's just a couple things that we said as second mover, we had the ability to do things a little bit slicker. Like adding fields, like if you want to add a UDF to a main screen, it's super easy. And then the thing to say, hey, add it here. Do you want to do below, left to left of the field, like we do referencing? So if you want to move a field, you don't have to tweak it. We do a really good job of moving things and saying, what field do you want to place it by? Above, below, left or right? And it's well aligned to the field that you've picked. So it's much easier to do move arounds. And even then, the macro recorder and the macro tool is, quite honestly, it's a decent amount easier than using the B1 validation stuff. And so that's just kind of the normal stuff. Again, everything that you could do on the same thing, right? All the SAP screens, UDOs, UDTs, and so on. I'll show you a couple examples of that. Again,
yeah, by the way, Argentus had a real big need to be able to customize some of their screens easily, and did testing with regards to what other tools were capable of in ours, and they came back and said, we want to go with APP and recommend that because it's the only one we found that can really give us the customization capability we need on our UDO screens.
Right. Yeah, we've done a decent amount. A lot of people complain that setting up styles, like a model there, is just way too cumbersome. It takes too long. So a handful of customers, we've done some things that just say, set one field, and the macro tool just goes haywire on the screen if it pre-fills it in for them. So it makes life a lot easier in setting up the new styles. So like we said, it's not terribly technical. The most technical you'll ever have to get is understanding how to do SQL. But cool thing is every now and then a customer says, hey, I want to do an example of a thing that says go down the lines. Like one customer said, I want to go down the lines, figure out some stuff, and then calculate some kind of weird shipping line at the end and calculate the amount of shipping based on stuff that we've seen in the lines. Can I get a couple hours training for me to do it? I'm like, well, it's actually funny you mentioned that. Your case, your business use case is actually in the documentation. So the documentation does try to reflect some real life examples of how to do everything. So you can often kind of just resort to that to get to know it. But again, it's the most technical thing that you got to do is know SQL. All right. Here's another differentiator. It's one module. So I think Corey had said this earlier, but it's one module and you get everything. There is no add-ons really. You get the reports, the forms, advanced delivery capability, customizer, charts, queries, dashboards, B1 email, journal voucher import, and scheduler. Sorry, I left scheduler off that bullet. So you get a good amount there for that one thing. Virtually unlimited UI capabilities, etc. What we are now doing is we're bundling other third wave add-on modules like EFT, the marketing and campaign management. It's part of the installer. You just have to enable that module. There's a module selection manager. You just turn it on, and if you check it, it's on there. Eventually, we're just going to have all of them baked in there so that all you need to do is turn it on, you get the license key, and do the configuration. So there's no new installs. So I think the next slide is the pricing. So we're going to do the finish. We're going to hide that until later on. All right. So just a couple key things that I wanted to point out. So in the live product, I'll show you a couple key things. So the first one that we find to be really pretty slick is if you've heard of report groups, basically I mentioned them a handful of times. Obviously, you can do any kind of report on a screen. Now, we do a decent amount with the right-click menu so that by default, we're not cluttering up the screen. So, for example, if you want to hang a couple different reports off the screen, you hang it on here and you do, say for example, if I'm on the sales order, here's how I send my customer my sales order acknowledgement form. So, for example, if I want to send this to the customer, I can do this and I could say deliver and hit execute and it sends it in an email. But like Corey said, if I hit the edit and deliver, it's actually going to start by pre-populating a B1 email screen with the content that was predefined in the report definition. So that includes how it was addressed, the content of the message, the attachment, right? The attachment name, the attachment numbers, and so on. And notice it automatically clicks off the way I've asked it to click off in the parent definition. I did not click the create activity. I did click these two. And then you have the email message builder. So how do you set that up? You simply come over here to the report maintenance screen. Here, let's get the email tool out of our way. And it's a couple simple things. You name it. You say what category it goes in. You point it to a Crystal report. Right? That could be somewhere on a report share. You link it to your SAP sales order screen. Now notice, for the most, actually, if you look at this list, this is everything that gets delivered, screens out of the box that get delivered where you want to attach anything to. If you want to add more, you simply click Define New, and you put in the SAP assigned ID for the screen. So if it's if it's V33 underscore something, because that's the way your custom screen was defined, you name it, you hit Add, and now you can attach anything to that screen. All right. But by default, these are all there. And if you look at the screens the way they are, there are actually some other fields that help in life. So if you put in things like it's a standard SAP object, what table does it associate with, what field on screen is the record key, this actually makes all the other stuff much faster, like advanced delivery and stuff like that. But we do all that for you on, I don't know, what looks like probably 40 for these screens. Then you can map the parameters. So if you have any field on screen, this will scan your Crystal report. Any field on screen, it'll find the parameters, and you could say, take this field, right? Field ID number 8 is the document number on the sales order window. So I take that field, map it to that parameter in the Crystal report. So that's what makes it dynamic off that screen. All right. This is new. If you look over here, if I have a query and I'm doing a query-based item, and the query's got 6 fields, I pick the field from the query that I want to map to that parameter. All right, so it gives you a pretty good idea of what you can do with this now. And then this is the really kind of fancy stuff where you say, I want to go through email. Do you want to do Outlook or SMTP? Where do you want to put it in drafts or just sent, your outbox? What is your attachment format, right? So you could do PDF, Excel, Word. Do you want to get delivery receipt, read receipts? And then here's where you do your message building. So you click on this little link arrow. Takes a couple seconds to open this up because it's referencing the Word object. But basically, you can either use a set of standard fields that we've given you, like these are ID tags, and you just take one and you say, I want to put the document total in the message. So you could say, your order total is, click Insert, and it just puts that document total in the message. And any field that you want is, like you can pick from this pool. Or if we hadn't thought of it, you can just write a B1 query and then grab the field from that B1 query. So you pick any existing saved query out of SAP, and it'll show all the fields that are in that query, and you can yank those and pull them into it. Obviously, the query needs to make sense for the type of transaction that you're trying to do this with. So, for example, if you're trying to do this against invoices and your query is primarily against the OWOR table, it's not going to work. So if it's going to be off of invoices, you want your query to primarily be against the invoices table, all right, to get those tags, because that's how it's going to know which record in that query is going to get the data. Again, you can put tags, field tags on the actual attachments and email subjects, which is pretty cool, and so you can do pretty good fun stuff with it. So when you do that,
Mike,
yeah.
Did you show them where the attachments went on there for the static attachments?
Oh, yeah, I did not, but I will show that. Yep. So like Corey said, there's an additional attachments tab. So if you want to come in here and put like terms and conditions and so on and so forth, you could put as many as you want. And it'll keep on taking as many as you want. There are some limits, it's like 10 megs or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Now, you can do, that's basic stuff, right? So you saw how I did that one. You could also do what's called a report group, right? So what a report group does, and that is my default group. Basically, when I click the email icon on a transaction, or if I've done a group, it's going to do one of two things depending on how I've set it up. In my example, it's going to generate 2 emails sitting in my drafts. I've intentionally sent it to the drafts. And they're different. They're different emails based off of the same order in this case. All right. So in my case, one is a copy of the order to the salesperson. So Sophie is my SAP salesperson, and it says your customer placed an order, and it sends her a copy of like a pre-order commission statement that says, hey, this $400 order is going to yield a $40 commission. So she gets that as a copy. Hey, I don't PDF close for me. And then in Outlook, the customer gets their copy. So in this case, it did 2 different reports to 2 different people. But you can do, the report groups can allow you to do a little bit of anything you want. So you could do, and it doesn't have to be 2, it could be 4, it could be 6, whatever. So one option is to split and do different reports or different forms to different people with different email content. Or it could be one big email with a lot of different reports content in it. So I could have said, here, Mr. Customer, here's a copy of your order in PDF format and Excel format. Or here's a copy of your order plus the packing list plus the labels or something like that. So often we have different scenarios where that's really helpful, like especially with purchasing. You may want to send them a copy of the report plus some other technical guide behind it. That's kind of dynamic data. That's fine.
You know, we've done things like here's a copy of your your packing list, and here's an Excel spreadsheet with all the serial numbers that are associated with the items.
Yeah, exactly. Or like MSDS info of the products that are on your order. So it's pretty easy stuff to do. So hopefully you can see that it's pretty easy to do it. And I don't know if you guys have ever, those of you that have worked with APP, if you want to do entity editing, there's like a nice little keyboard shortcut. So you just simply hold down Control and Shift, and whatever you've done in APP, if you hold down Control and Shift and click it, it will take you to that screen and like kind of open it up and get you ready for doing editing. So if you want to make an edit to the report, you click this button, it opens up Crystal and lets you edit your Crystal report. All right. If you want to make an edit, any other edit, like it's create the activity, etc. You can just do what you can, do what you want, update, and now it's live. All right. So to branch off from that, where we went from there, when we kind of got in development mode here, is the advanced delivery. Right. So an example of an advanced delivery might be send customers a copy of their statements. So in this case, I'm simply just going to launch it. This is what the end user would do. I'm going to launch it, say, okay, let's see the list. This is a list of the people who are going to get copies of their statements. And I could say, yes, go send them. And what's cool about this is it's going to run that Crystal report, I don't know, what, 15, 20 times. But I can just, it's going to process, and it's off to the side. I can go back to doing whatever I want to do now in SAP and just let that go off on its side and keep working. Because, again, it could be a monster report that takes a while to run, and it's going to take me an hour to generate 60 emails. I don't know. It depends on the performance of the server, how you've written a report, and so on. But it's pretty slick, so it'll just sit there and work. So what's that doing? It's filling up my outbox here with a bunch of emails saying, here, Mr. Customer, here's a copy of your statement, and so on. All right. Now, in this case, it's a standard thing. It's doing a copy of the statement, and it's going against your business partner screen. But we've had other instances that are a little bit more tricky than that. One example might be one of our customers, they get, they call it consumption data in EDI language. It's an 852, right? So it's what it's what our stores, our customers are actually selling at their counters. So I'm not selling it. I'm selling to them, and it's what they're selling, and they're giving me that sales data back. And they actually pay commissions to their reps based on what's sold at the counter. So we're getting 852 data, and it's sitting in just a raw SQL table. And then we can actually run an APP advanced delivery report that takes that data, generates commission statements to those salespeople, right? So in this case, I have 2 salespeople in here that are going to get commissions on that 852 data, and I hit deliver, and this is 100% custom. But building obviously building the EDI maps and stuff like that for that is a challenge. But building the APP delivery, it's pretty simple. I simply write the Crystal report against that table. I say, go find any salesperson. I write a query against that table that says, any salesperson's getting commissions this month. That's the list. That was the query. And then I just attach it all up in an APP delivery. So in that case, it is saying, okay, Sophie, you're getting commission on these items that we're selling at Nordstrom's. Let me zoom out so you get a little feel here. So based on your commission percentage, these are the different counter sales. Here's what you earned and so on. And these are all the different products. And then the other salesperson is Brad. And he's getting all stuff being sold at the Steinmark counters. So it gives you pretty good capabilities. This customer, not only do they do it this way, they also let them go log in and see the same stuff in our Versago tool, which is our, the salespeople thing. But anyway, you get the idea, though. All right. And how you set that one up, pretty simple. Click the link arrow. It'll take me to that advanced delivery option, just like anything else. Here's the report definition. Send the salesperson a copy of their statement. All right. It's a pretty simple commission report, actually. And then on top of that, I just sit there and write the email message that says, here's a copy of your commission statement. And it's linked up to a query called salesperson commission list. I mean, it couldn't get any easier. One or two more key things that we've done here.
Yeah, I just want to add, like, for example, when we do that in that screen that Mike brought up that said, okay, here's a list of everybody that's going to get delivered to based on the advanced delivery criteria, we dynamically build that window with all of the columns in it, so you don't have to do anything. I mean, we just take a look at what's in that query and dynamically build the window. You don't have any extra work that you need to do in the background to create a window for the answer set to come back into.
Right. So again, it's the same report maintenance screen. I just set up that report, like Corey said, and I simply just say it's an advanced delivery. I build this query, and the query is kind of here. I'll show you what the query looks like. I mean, it's just a simple SQL query. It's in here under, I think I put it under here. Yep. It's basically, see, I did it as a UDO, so I got all the stuff. So I basically said, get distinct salespeople from the A52 table. And that's the list of people who's supposed to get a commission statement this month. And so I just said, I need the salesperson name and the email, and we're off to the races. And so it's pretty simple from there. And all I did at that point is map a parameter. And in this case, there is no B1 field because it's not off of a B1 screen. It's based off of a query. So the email address is my report parameter, is my field to say how I want to address it. So that email field is going to be the parameter that I feed into the Crystal report, as well as in the email area, I say get the recipient from this field, email. All right, so if you had a different field that says what's the ID of the person, you want to map that as a parameter of Crystal report, that's fine. And then you put your email address in here. And what's pretty slick, you can actually obviously have multiples, right? So if you wanted to pull, CC emails and so on and so forth, you could do that. All right. Just two more things I'll just quickly show. One is a couple nice little customizer type things. So let's use the order window. So if you have some UDFs here, this is what we think is kind of slick. If you want to add a UDF to a main screen and you have Customizer enabled, you simply just go to Customizer UDF, you pick the field. So let's say, for example, I want to do the EFT KID number. It asks you, where do you want to place it? I put it below, and you're done. And now the field's there. We feel like that kind of functionality is pretty darn slick, right? It's pretty easy. And if you say I want to do a new item and I want to put a button somewhere, you say right-click, Customizer, new item button, and it says, we've got your reference, where do you want to put it? I want to put it below where I just clicked, and there's your new button. And then again, you control double click on that button, and now you get to say what you want the behavior of it to be. So it's going to load it up, you name it, you do what you want to do with it. So you could say this is the, whatever, right? The happy button, and then behind there you can put in whatever events you want to happen off that button. I mean, you could do something where if I single click it, it does this, and where I double click it, it does that. So,
Michael, is that a global setting or individual settings?
What do you mean by that?
When you make this change, is that going to go flow all the way through, or is this just to the user that's on the screen?
That's up to you. Over here, that's a setting. By default, it's global.
Okay.
But we do have users in one of the fields on that object. You can actually say that affects these users.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you have the applicable users. You can actually come in here and say it only make that applicable for this person, that person, that person, that person.
Perfect. Thanks.
Right,
Yeah,
and
you can do it by departments and all that kind of stuff too.
Sorry, one more time, please.
You can do that by department, like you do it for certain departments. All that.
That's right. You can use B1 branches or B1 departments as well.
Okay, cool.
All right. Okay. So, to what extent we've actually had a customer and they had this? I mean, to the extent of we had a customer and they had this massive SDK customization written by a prior partner, who's no longer a B1 partner, and they said, "Here's the source code," and the source code, it was crazy. We did not get good source code. It was like some of it was in VB and some of it was in C++ or something. I mean, we had nothing to work with. So what we said is, we just rewrite it in APP. And they're like, you could do that? Yeah, sure. So what we wound up doing for them is a pretty simple thing. What their function was after I pick a customer on the sales order, if they have back-ordered items, they get a pop-up screen. And the pop-up screen would say, do you want to add this item to the back order, yes or no? So basically it would say, these are all the items that are back-ordered for that customer. And so what we said is, look, we'll just do a screen like this. This is actually an SAP UDO. So we said, okay, you do that, and then you simply click this button, and it'll go through and figure out what back-ordered items I've chosen on that screen, and I was able to build this in probably 2 hours' work. You guys know the truth. You're going to be able to do exactly what you want with SDK development. Whereas I had to use the button in order to suck them into the order. I probably could have said once that screen, I probably could have made it fancier. That said, once I hit OK on that screen, it goes back to the order and just sucks them in. I most likely could have done that. I just did this in like an hour. And they're like, it's perfect, and it works, and it was live. The only thing we could not do with APP in this scenario was after I add the order, APP is not going to go then say, for this item on the originating order, close out that line. We did do that with, for them, they owned our tool BizWeaver. We did it with that. It was another little task that just says, as soon as I add this order, go close them out. But if you don't have BizWeaver, you could just write a query to say, show me all the linked ones. I'll go down and close those out. But I mean, you could do pretty much whatever you want with this thing without needing the right SDK stuff. And all I really did there is the button goes and says, go get the back-ordered items, which I'm going to show you, and it runs a line event. And the line event just says, go get them. And for each line you found in there, just go and, suck it in. So you go to the edit, and the line event tool is pretty slick. It just says, go through line by line and get the data, and it's a line event, and it just goes through and says, go line by line and get the item codes that are in that back-ordered quantity that I requested. I'll just show you the macro editor, the macro recorder real quick. So let's say, for example, let's say, for example, I just wanted to do a quick thing on here that says automatically put in today's date. I want to put this button in, call it auto-populate. I want to put in today's date in here. I'll just put some text in the customer PO number field and some text in the remarks. But you'll get the idea. I just want to show you how the macro tool works. All right, so we're going to name this auto-populate. Probably make it a little bit wider to fit all those words. Okay, we're going to say when it's pressed, and we're going to define the function. So we're just going to say, go build a new function. Now, obviously, we have all this kind of functionality that says, when do you want to do it, after I click it, before I click it, etc. But I'm going to make it simple, and I'm just going to go with the defaults, and I'm going to say auto-populate. So you say, I want to record the macro. So now it's recording. So in this case, I put in today's date here. Like I put in a text character. Put in some notes. Have a nice day. And we'll even unclick the approved checkbox. And then I'm done recording. Now what that did for you is it built a couple little macros here. It said do this, do this, do this. Okay. It validates it. I say save and close, and it just built the functionality to do what I wanted it to do in those various fields. All right, so it's pretty cool. You don't need to write a lot, but then if you want to edit it, you just go in there and you can edit, do whatever you want with it. Right, so you can do more fancy stuff like put in variables, basically whatever you want to do. All right. We find that to be pretty friendly. And then lastly, we'll just finish up with the dashboards. All right.
Yeah, so I, by the way, got tired of having to fill in a whole bunch of stuff on our lead screen in our marketing campaign management module. So one day I spent about 10 minutes and wrote a macro, and now I just push that, and it automatically assigns me as the salesperson, fills in about 6 other fields of information, and drops me on the activity screen, which is where I always want to start. So if Mike brought up a new sales order screen and clicked on that button now, all that logic would be there, and it just executes for you.
It's going to do it for me.
So you don't need to write, you don't necessarily need to write code to add to a button. You can click through the various functions that you want to have happen, and it just automatically writes the logic for you and adds it to the button.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One last thing, the dashboards, if you haven't looked at them yet. So basically,
Was that a good Susan, or a?
I went, mm-hmm. Well, you know, I'm not very technical. So.
Then this is perfect for you.
it's yes.
I'm not very technical either, but I could click through the buttons of what I want to do.
Yeah, I know.
You're good at clicking too.
nice.
My goodness.
I know, Jeffy.
Of course, yeah.
So in the theme of nice and easy and simple, dashboards are exactly that. It's simply another module, or whatever you want to call it, another window that allows you to put a bunch of queries on the screen at the same time. All right, so mine's Peyton. Basically, each area in here is a query. So aged payables is just a SQL query, receivables is a SQL query, cash flow is a SQL query, and so on. But what we do is you can basically you could say whether or not it's a grid or a chart, this kind of chart, or that kind of chart, or a gauge. So like if I click on one of these items, what that does is it kind of, if you notice other things, like, so basically these are static. These aren't going to change. However, the details area here is not static. It's dynamic. So basically if I want to kind of drill into my SG&A expense and click on it, it's going to show me what my net activity year to date is for those accounts that fall under the SG&A category. And then obviously you have the gauges. The gauges could be static, that they're just showing me the result of a query, or they could be dynamic. And you'll notice in this case they are dynamic and linked. So if I click on this, I can make them move. Everybody wants to see the gauges, quite frankly. It's not going to, I don't use them, but they look kind of fancy. But the graphs and stuff like that are nice to have. Again, you can leave these open, and you can have as many of them open as you want. You can even set them to auto refresh. Just go back to B1, do what you want, and you know, have a nice day. So you just go back to your thing, see what's happened since, and it's always going to be there. They're nice. They're easy. They are actually really easy to build, and they look pretty decent, and they come with it. So.
Yeah, once you have the query, you can usually put a visualization on top of it in a matter of several minutes.
Yep.
Do you have an APP query, Mike?
Let's see. I have this income statement summary. No, I don't. Wait, maybe I don't. Let me see. Not that I know of. I might on my other demo drive.
Okay. We used to have them under sales.
Yeah, I don't have them here. Let me check my other demo drive. The older one. I didn't put any on here, so this one yet.
Look under sales queries.
Yeah, okay, that one has nothing. Sorry guys, we're just gonna poke here and get until we find a good one.
Look under sales as opposed to APP reports. They used to be, or the back ordered items, or
Yeah, let's check back ordered items.
there you go.
All right, so yeah, Corey's so referring to is the grouping and stuff like that. We're grouping on item number here. It was automatically set to do that. So in this case, it's saying, hey, look, this item has back ordered. It's 9 documents, $53,990 worth. When you open it up, you can actually see all the details. So, or sorry, that was quantities of the quantities back ordered. So in that case, it's like you said, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 plus the values. So it does do the grouping and the summation or the aggregating, but we do the same thing where you can obviously do the sorting and so on and the filtering. That's great, but it's nice because it's like a crystal report that's a lot more dynamic with the link arrows and so on. So if you clicked on, say, the order number, it will take you back to SAP and it'll open up that order number for you.
The other thing that I like about this is that you can dynamically regroup things.
That's right.
So I can drag the BP code up on the main bar there and do a grouping by BP at this point, and then I can drag item code up there and do a grouping by item code. And you can set up 3 or 4 or 5 groups, but this, it really gives you a dynamic analysis type of tool. And then you can go in and then do things based on, like if we had required delivery date on here, maybe I want to put a filter on it where I only see anything that's due over the next 3 weeks or something like that. So it's very easy to work with and really kind of do some analysis with it and subtotal things with it. So, and again, you got a Business One query. In about 5 minutes, you can put this visualization on top of it and regroup it and set it any way you want.
Yeah, and put a chart on it if you want to. Questions? We're at our time.
I know, and I've actually got to jump off in 1 minute. So.
Otherwise, we're done.
Can you guys do the? Can you guys do your price list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't jump, Scott.
Go ahead, Corey or Mike, whoever wants.
Yeah, no, I'll take it. So I think one of the advantages we've got is that it's very competitively priced.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a base server module for APP that's $2,000 that gives you all of the functionality that we've talked about. And then each user is $100. When you do the first order, you can do the base and you can do 2 users if you want. We don't care. After the first order, the minimum is 5. So if you want to do an order for 7 users because that's what the customer added, you can do that. What we don't want to do is process an order for 1 user for $70. Mm-hmm. So that's the restriction we've put on there, but it makes it really easy. I mean, we found with B1UP, it's like, well, how many users do you have? Do you need this? Do you need that? Do you need print and deliver? How many users of that do you need? So it really makes it easier for the customers too. They don't have to sit there and go, oh, I don't have a license for that user. So, if you got 10 users, it's $3,000 for everything. If it's 20 users, it's $4,000 for everything. And so the pricing we think is pretty competitive. It's easy. It should reduce your cost of sales too, because you don't have to spend as much time explaining licenses and getting user counts. Mm-hmm. And as we said, we've got now one installer that includes EFT, all the document delivery capability in EFT as far as sending out payment advice notices and stuff is done through the APP functionality. So if you know how to do APP doc deliveries, you know how to do it for EFT from that standpoint. And then, our other applications that you guys are already working with. So, like ShipEasy and credit card. ShipEasy, we're about ready to come out with a generic carrier. So you can easily set up an ODBC connection to any carrier you want, i.e. Speedy in the Midwest and DHL in Canada, etc. Credit card processing you guys know about. Actually, we've got a tokenization, a token version of that coming out within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Credit card, ShipEasy, and APP are also within the next 2 or 3 weeks going to be available for the lightweight deployment, so it's easier to do the installs on it. RMA.
Sorry, I've got to jump off, but I'll
Okay.
leave you with everyone else. But
Nice.
it was thanks for the presentation, and it was good to get an update.
Great. We really appreciate your time in setting this up, Scott.
No problem. Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Yes, and then we've got our RMA module, which, in case anybody, you guys were at the Innovation Summit, that whatever SAP is releasing from RMA in 9.3 isn't going to be functional for 95+% of the customers that are out there. Our intercompany processing with BizWeaver, which is one of our new entries out here, chargeback processing, EFT, and MICR. So we've got a lot of different options for your customers. And we think
Absolutely.
it could be, you've got one place to go for a lot of different solutions. So
I've sold 6 of them.
Six of which?
6 of different, I've sold APP, ShipEasy, credit card, RMA, chargeback, EFT. Yay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All good. Very easy, and the customers seem to really like them. So.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to hear that. We're glad to hear that. Any question on pricing or any of the functionality or?
Is the maintenance 20% of the whole total price, or is it just 20? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that's it. That's great. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you.
And by the way, I must tell you guys, Michael Nardini is the best channel manager ever. He's very, very responsive, and he's on it. So thank you, Michael, for all your help.
Yes, he is. He is very quick to respond. And
Very.
Yep.
Very
Great.
helpful, very quick.
Yep.
Even for us non-technical people, he gets.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
And Michael's not paying attention.
I know that.
Tell him he got accolades.
Yeah, I will do that. I will do that. But quit making his head swell up. But,
I know.
we won't be able
I was
to
on
for
mute.
the rest of the week.
Oh, there he
I
is.
was on mute. I was going to say,
Yeah.
I didn't have to. When do I have to send the PayPal money? Thank you for that.
Buy me a drink next time. Will be cool.
Fair enough.
All right, guys.
Sounds good.
Thank
Great.
you.
Well, we
Thank you,
appreciate
everyone.
it. And
All right.
if you've got any questions or you have any questions on pricing or anything, oh, by the way, APP, ShipEasy, and credit card have also been, and RMA have been implemented in HANA, in case anybody wants
Oh,
to.
Cool. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. Jason's
right.
working on a deal right now. Go get him, Jason.
You know it. Yep.
All right.
All right.
Hey,
Thanks again,
Corey.
everybody.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye.